Good morning, everyone. It's really nice, actually, for us to be here today, because I don't think Hailey and I have been here for at least a couple months, as we've been doing the Everett Farmers Market every Sunday. So there's a part of me that would love to have my homecoming. Thanks, dear. For that very reason, there's a part of me that would have loved for my homecoming to have been in facing this direction, but here I am. It's a really actually powerful reading and kind of an intense one. Jesus kind of throws down the gauntlet about family to open it up, and I couldn't help but notice that Kyle wasn't allowed to sit with his parents this morning. That's how it goes. You know, when I first read the reading, we read the reading every Thursday morning as a part of our morning meditation at the farm. And I was surrounded by all the farmers who I think of as my family, and then I've got Glenda, my mother-in-law, and you just read those words and... Sorry, Glenda. But I think what most of us come to recognize is not so much about the outward definitions of who's our family and right and wrong, and in an outward sense that we need to renounce our parents or something. It's whether we see God in them or not, or whether we're attached to them as these separate ego personalities. And I wanted to make sure I clarified that because I know my mom was going to watch today. Don't worry, Mom, we're still coming home in a few weeks. I'm going to come see you. The topic is victory requires the courage of conviction, and that's the real point that Jesus was making when he said that to his disciples, because it's very easy for us to not want to fight the battle of life in lieu of that which is convenient and comfortable. And that's really what he was saying, probably very specifically to some disciples who needed to hear that, because it was going to be easier to keep the same habits, to just live the same lifestyle, than it was to pick up their sword and to come with him and follow him. Now that's, not much has really changed since Jesus said that to his disciples. We still are stuck in this same place as souls trying to grow towards freedom, towards victory. And we all really still are facing the same choice in our lives. Only, I would say even now, it's becoming a little bit more exacerbated by the circumstances of the world, where we are really getting confronted with the opportunity to choose victory in our life. Last week, Shanti gave a beautiful talk on the topic of surrender. And I was able to actually be standing here for that talk last year. And that's maybe my favorite topic in the whole Rays of the One Light. Because we recognize very quickly when we come onto a spiritual path and when we choose it in our life that we can't really get anywhere if we haven't surrendered. And we very quickly find out the more that we kind of push our will onto the world and what we think should be happening, we'll get ready, because it's not going to work. And when it does work, it's not going to feel good in a short time, because it's not coming from the right place. But this art of surrender, really, this option that we have to step back and to ask God, what is your will in this situation? What is your will in my life? It gives us a point of power that we can really build from. Now we're not just doing things because it's convenient or because we want to do it. That's very easy to do. We've done that for a long time. We're doing things because we want to do them for God. We want to do them to help, to serve this world. It's a very different approach to life. And I know for myself, I had spent a lot of my life in this incarnation really confused about what I was doing here. Nothing really made sense to me. When I was a child, I loved nature and I loved certain things, but as I kind of got indoctrinated into the world, that all just melted away, and I was very confused. What the heck am I doing here? Why does nothing have any meaning? And it really wasn't until the yogic teachings found me, and I was desperately surrendering at that point in my life, that I was able to actually make some significant changes in my approach to life. And so what I'm saying is, we have to start with surrender. If we haven't done that yet, then the courage of conviction is not going to get us very far. There's a lot of conviction in the world right now. I think we can look around and we see it everywhere. I would say a lot of misguided conviction. And who's to say what is right or wrong? Everyone has their karma. So everyone has to go through the convictions that they feel compelled to carry out in the world. But what are we experiencing right now is a lot of conviction, anger, upsets, rage, indignance towards others who don't see the world just like ourselves. This is not the kind of conviction we want to cultivate, but it is still conviction. It is still the power that's growing inside of individual souls that has to be focused in a direction to grow. You know, a few days ago, I always get excited when we're driving to the market, and I always look for this guy, the dandelion man, on my way off the island. And he really likes the spring. He's out in his yard in the spring. And I hadn't seen him all summer because the yard dries out and the dandelions recede. We have really sandy soil where we're at. So the dandelions just kind of disappear. But in the spring, they are abundant. And he's out there. And I was really happy on Friday because I looked out the window as we drove past Dandelion Man's house. He's right off of East Camino. And he was in his yard again. And he has a little dandelion puller. And I would say it's about maybe an acre that he works on. And he walks around his yard and he steps on the dandelion and he twists it and he rips it out of the ground. I've been watching him do this for years, 8 years to be exact. And he is still persistent. On both sides, he's got a yard full of dandelions over here and up above him. And you guys know what happens when the neighbor's dandelions go to seed. There really is not any stopping the dandelions. But this guy has the conviction that he's going to pull every godforsaken dandelion out of his lawn. And he's focused on it. And my first, I happen to love dandelions, so my first instinct when I would watch Dandelion Man was like to feel bad for him. That's kind of crazy. I wish he could just embrace that there's this beautiful yellow flower that looks like the sun, and then it turns into this beautiful globe flower that looks like a full moon, and then the wind comes and it blows that full moon into a million stars. And what a miracle that is, but he's not thinking of it like that. He wants to get rid of that stinking dandelion, every last one. But over time, I've just learned to not judge Dandelion Man and just watch him and how persistent he is pulling those dandelions. He is absolutely focused. And I realize more and more how much appreciation I have for the focus that he has. Not for the activity he's doing, but for how focused he really is. If we can bring that kind of focus into our spiritual life, we could be home very soon. We would be there very quickly. And so when I look around the world and I see all of this energy right now, there's a lot of energy. There's just an absolute lot of strong belief systems that we are pushing onto each other and onto the world. And that is just something we're going to have to accept, that that's where the world is at. But the beautiful thing is that as we become more sensitive in our spiritual life, we stop wishing that any of that was different than it is. We start just seeing it for the play that it is. And we realize that our job is not to try to change anything going on out there. It's not to try to fix everybody else. That our job and the greatest power we have is to reform ourselves. This is the essence of a yogic understanding of life, is we actually can step back from the strong feelings that come in us, that we want things to be different out there. We want to change everyone. We want to change our siblings or our parents or whoever it is. We want to fix everything. We can let go of that. And we can just start working on ourselves truly from the inside out. This is the thing about conviction that's really fascinating to me, is as we mature spiritually, conviction stops being something outside of us. We stop feeling the need to convince anyone else of something. Conviction is not convincing someone else what the right things are. I'm kind of standing up here trying to convince you, but I didn't choose this, I just am here. But conviction is not about convincing someone else. It's an inside job. It's the mental whispers of our heart all the time, that we choose God no matter what is going on. That we start to retrain ourselves to go within and to look for the answers to everything in our relationship to God, to the masters, to whoever it is that we are drawn to spiritually. But it has to come from within us. And the world, and I notice this even with people who've been on the yogic path for a long time. The world is constantly teaching us that we still need to fix things out there. But that's not true. If we would really reform ourselves, Yogananda said, we could reform millions if we would really work on ourselves first. And that, of course, is what Ananda represents. We've been having the temple fundraiser, the Free and Clear campaign, to try to just secure this space and the work of Ananda in this area so that we have this symbol and this path for people for years to come, and we're not needing to deal with debt for a long time. Glenda, wake up. You know, when I listened to Parvati's talk, I'm going to come back to the Free and Clear. I listened to Parvati's talk on this topic from about 5 years ago, and she said, what this comes down to is awake. We need to wake up. And that was at the time the Yogananda movie had come out. We need to wake up. And this, we can't do this falling asleep. This is real. Papa Ram Dass would often say the spiritual path is no joke. And I've thought about that a lot, because at first it's cute and you think it's no joke. And then it happens to you. And you realize the spiritual path is no joke. I can't get through, I can make jokes, but I can't get through the spiritual path thinking that it's going to be easy or a joke, that it's actually a choice we have to make. And so this is where the conviction comes in for us. We can't fake it. It's inside of us. And it actually is the power of our beliefs inside of us. What do I believe in? And I found myself asking this question this week. I think the crisis of my childhood turning into adulthood was that I didn't believe in anything. That's very easy to do. You stop believing in things because the world doesn't really offer you much to believe in. But as you start to find that which is true, and you start to believe in something real, the realness then born of experience becomes faith. And this is our path forward. As we get these little seeds, as we start to have these powers of belief inside of us, and we take care of them. And then we grow those little seeds, and they become full-born gardens of realization. This is wonderful. This is the opportunity always. And when I see things happening, I think, what amazing opportunities and reminders we're being given constantly to take care of those seeds and to not get swept up in all the convictions that are so confused. This year, has been, well, before I get to that, I want to go back to the Free and Clear and just say that this idea of conviction, when we look at the people who have been here and have been doing this, what we've been given, Swami Kriyananda, Master, They had the conviction and the belief from God that this was their work to share with us. But they had that from a true place of realizing it in themselves, of realizing this path inside of themselves. This is our task, and there isn't much else to do actually when we get right down to it. And it's hard when you start to look at that to not recognize the people around you with the conviction to keep things going for all of us. I think most often of Fremont and Padma for what they've really given us without ever asking much. On Friday night, I was really ready to just be quiet because we had our last Stanwood market, which was amazing, and we had a full rainbow at the end of the market. But then at the end of that, I thought, I've got to find time to be quiet. And I texted them and I said, do you think I could just come to the Hermitage and just be there? And Fremont's response was, mi casa es su casa. And help yourself to anything, sent me the code and let me in. And it was just that little willingness to give to me in that moment and let me just have a place to go. And we realize that's conviction. That is their lives, the lives of all the people who've come before us, of all the saints who've come before us. They show us how to live our life. But we have to stop listening to the world. We have to turn off the news. And we have to start looking at what's the true examples of how to live our life is. There is this song today that I would really like you guys to tune into the essence of it. The Lees and Maria are going to be kind enough to play it for us, and it has really become the soundtrack of the year for me, because 2020 has been strange. There's no doubt about that. But amidst the strangeness, if we've been able to step aside from it and to go within, then we realize what a blessing it is. And this song represents, to me, the melancholy of this year paralleled with the absolute beauty of God that is always there, that is never not there. And though it was written in 1980, it was the song that was selected as the soundtrack for Ken Burns' Civil War series. So it has a very distinct vibration of what was going on at that time. So there is a sadness to it almost. And I think if we look around at the consciousness of what's happening in the world right now, we might not be fighting physically yet, but the polarization is certainly there. The non-civility of people towards each other is already there. This is just what's happening. But amidst that, there is this unbelievable beauty of God underneath the whole thing. And this is what we have to learn to cultivate, is to look for that beauty of God that's within it, because it's in there, in everything. And I know it's hard to believe. Sometimes there's stinkers out there that we just think, I can't love this person. But what we have to do is learn to just see God within them, because God is absolutely inside of them. Yogananda said that there were 4 psychological traits that we all alternate between, psychological awarenesses. And when I read this in my mind, I thought these are the 4 ways of thinking and being that we all have that keep us from that inner state of Ananda when we get distracted. And they're very simple. And I started identifying them in myself over the last couple days. 1 was sorrow, when our desires are thwarted, when we're sad about the state of things, when we wish things were different than they were. The opposite of that is happiness, he put in quotes. when our desires are fulfilled and we think this is the best, this is the greatest. The next is indifference, boredom, when we just don't care. And the last of these, which was a real surprise to me, was the state of passive peace, whereby we just think everything is fine and I don't have to think about it. And I'll just melt into the couch and that will be enough peace for now. But it's passive. And there's no active role that we're taking to grow. These are the 4 states that we are constantly moving from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And when he stated it that clearly, I thought, oh my God, it's so obvious. We can look at each other and see it. If we're trying to be yogis, we're going to look at ourselves and we'll see it. But then he said, amidst all these changing states, these 4 states that are constantly alternating, sorrow, happiness, indifference, and passive peace, there is Ananda. And that is us carrying in our hearts the awareness of God's presence, of God's joy, always. Even when the sorrow comes, because it will still come. And even when we sink into indifference and we think, I don't care about being free and clear. Or when we're so excited about everything going so well. What we have to do is just cultivate that little bit of Ananda inside of us and hold on to that, because that's the only place that we're actually safe. And that's the only place we actually can help this world from. Isn't that interesting? So this song that I would like to invite the Lee sisters to come up and do, for me represents that little wave of Ananda that just runs right alongside all those 4 states of civil war and everything else. It's just that little bit of Ananda that we can carry within us. And I think they played it this year at the 4th of July, and they played it at our last Camino market. It's really been the soundtrack for the year, so it's a special treat to have them come play this now. Go ahead.
It's called The Shokin Farewell.
I'm still going to read my whispers.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Could listen to that on repeat. So remember, you guys, that what you believe in really matters. So believe in the good stuff. This reading from Whispers from Eternity is "Make me the eagle of progress." Make me an eagle of progress, soaring far above narrow lanes of bigotry. Call me to soar ever higher and higher, far above all clouds of earthly pettiness. With the sharp talons of my soul, I will tear at the little squabbling birds of misery which prey upon mankind. I will free my mind's skies from the buzzards of cynicism which prey on carcasses of dead hopes. I will soar on balanced wings of wholesome living, high up into the finest regions of divine perception. High above the hurricanes of earthly preoccupation, I will soar higher and higher to those unimagined heights where thou alone dost dwell. Make me thy eagle of ever upward progress.
We'd like to give you an opportunity to make an offering, so please hold what you'd like to give in